My name is Natalie Carter, and if someone had told me 5 years ago that the girl I trusted with my deepest secrets would one day be the reason I stopped believing in the word friendship, I would have laughed it off. I mean, how do you go from calling someone your sister to feeling physically sick at the sound of her name? It all began during our sophomore year at Brightmoor University, a mid-sized college in Oregon. The air always smelled like pine trees and burnt espresso, and life felt like it was just beginning. I was a journalism major, had always in a notebook, scribbling down ideas, dreams, and interview questions no one asked for. My world was full of ambition, anxiety, and a need to prove myself. That's when I met Haley Mitchell. Haley was magnetic. Blonde curls, perfect teeth, a laugh that made everyone turn. She was majoring in marketing and had that confidence you only see in people who've never really had to try. The kind of girl who could charm professors, walk into a room and own it, and yet somehow made you feel like the important one. We met in Introduction to Communication Theory, and she sat next to me just once before it became permanent. You're smart. I'm cute. Let's team up for every class project, she whispered with a wink. It was meant to be a joke, but it stuck. Over the next few months, we became inseparable. Study sessions turned into movie nights. Coffee dates turned into therapy sessions. I told her about my rough childhood, about my mom working 3 jobs, about how I wanted to be the first woman in my family to graduate college. She nodded like she understood, like she cared. I thought she did. But there were signs, small ones, that something was off. The first time I noticed, it was during a group assignment for Professor Dalton's class. I had done most of the research and written the bulk of the paper. Haley showed up late to our meetings, texting during the final read-through. When it came time to present, she looked straight at the professor and said, "We split the work equally." I froze. It wasn't a lie exactly, but it wasn't the truth either. Later, when I brought it up, she laughed. "Nat, chill. We're a team. Your win is my win." I told myself it was fine. Maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe that's just how friends worked. Then there was the party. One of the frat houses was throwing a big winter glow event. Everyone wore white, the lights were black, and everything glowed. Faces, drinks, secrets. I didn't even want to go, but Haley begged me. "Come on, Natalie. You never go out. Live a little." I gave in. The music was loud, the room spun too easily, and someone handed me a drink that I didn't ask for. I took a sip and coughed. It tasted like fire and fake cherry. Next thing I knew, Haley was gone. I searched the whole house, heart pounding. I found her on the upstairs balcony, flirting shamelessly with Caleb Mendez, the editor of the student newspaper. The same guy I had been crushing on for months. The same guy she swore she wasn't interested in. "You like Caleb?" she had asked me once, wide-eyed and innocent. EW. He's not even cute. And now there she was, leaning into him, laughing at his stupid jokes, running her fingers through her hair like a shampoo commercial. I went home early that night, staring at the ceiling, questioning everything. Was I imagining this? Was I being insecure? She texted me the next morning like nothing happened. "Such a fun night. You okay?" "You ghosted me, lol." I told myself not to make it a big deal. But that was just the first drop before the flood. Then came the internship. The one I dreamed of. The one I worked for. It was a competitive spot at a local news station, Channel 12 Oregon Today. They only chose 3 students from the entire campus. I stayed up late perfecting my resume, rewriting my cover letter, and practicing my sample story pitches. I told Haley about every step, every doubt, every hope. She smiled, supportive. Or so I thought. A week before the results were announced, she texted me out of the blue. "Hey, hope this isn't weird. I decided to apply too." Journalism sounds fun, grinning face with sweat. I stared at my phone. My chest tightened. Was this a coincidence? Or was it something else? I responded politely, pretending to be unbothered. But inside, I felt betrayed. She had never shown interest in journalism. She once said the news was boring and depressing. The day the internship results came out, I sat on the edge of my bed, refreshing the email over and over. Finally, the list popped up. Haley Mitchell. 2 others I didn't know. Not me. My hands went cold. My stomach dropped. I didn't cry. Not at first. I just stared at her name, bolded in black, like it belonged there. That afternoon, Haley barged into our shared dorm like she'd just won the lottery.
Oh, my God.
Can you believe it? They picked me. Isn't that crazy? She twirled her hair and acted surprised, like it was all just some cute accident. I nodded and smiled. But something cracked inside me. And it wasn't going to stay silent for long. I wanted to believe it was nothing. Maybe I was just being overly sensitive. Maybe I was just tired from work, or maybe stress was playing tricks on me. That's what I told myself after that first weird interaction with Jasmine. The way she had looked over my shoulder at the cafe and abruptly ended the conversation. But deep down, something had shifted. I could feel it. Still, I tried to push it aside. I told myself that Jasmine had always been a little self-involved. It wasn't new. She was charming, loud, magnetic, and she knew it. She pulled people toward her effortlessly, and I was used to living in her shadow. It had never really bothered me before. At least not until now. But then the little things started adding up. I began noticing changes in how our friends acted around me. Text threads I used to be active in would go silent after I posted. People would mention get-togethers I had never been invited to. At first, I blamed it on my schedule. Maybe I had just missed something. Maybe I had spaced on the invite. But when it kept happening, I started to feel the burn of being deliberately excluded. One evening, I ran into Zoe, an old mutual friend, at a bookstore. We hugged, exchanged a few laughs, and then she said something odd. I was surprised you didn't come last weekend. Jasmine said you were too busy, said you'd never really been into our group vibe anyway. I blinked. Wait, what? I never said that. Zoe tilted her head, suddenly awkward.
Oh.
Sorry, I just assumed. That night, I didn't sleep. My mind went in circles, revisiting every past conversation, every look Jasmine had given me recently. Had she been slowly turning people against me? Was she saying things behind my back? Was it all in my head? I kept doubting myself. But the more I noticed, the clearer it became. Jasmine wasn't just thoughtless. She was manipulative. She was slowly isolating me from the group we both helped build. And the worst part? She was doing it with a smile. The next clue hit harder than I expected. It was a small networking event, nothing fancy. A few entrepreneurs and creatives gathering in a cozy co-working space. I had been working on launching a handmade candle business, and Jasmine knew how much it meant to me. I'd asked her for advice countless times, even showed her my branding concepts. She always gave vague feedback, saying I should wait until it's more polished before showing anyone. So you can imagine how it felt when I walked into the event and saw Jasmine standing at a booth. My branding, my candle scents, my aesthetic, even the slogan I'd written in my journal. She was selling my idea. With a few tweaks, sure, but it was unmistakably mine. I froze. She saw me, waved nonchalantly, and went back to pitching to a stranger. Like I was invisible. I walked out. My heart was pounding. My ears were ringing. I couldn't even think straight. I went home and locked myself in my room. I wanted to scream,
Cry.
shatter something. But I just sat there, numb. Was this her plan all along? Had she been gathering my ideas, encouraging me to wait, while she secretly ran off with everything I'd created? I felt sick. Still, I needed proof. I needed to know I wasn't spiraling into paranoia. So I started digging. I scrolled back through our old messages, screenshots of mood boards I'd sent her, voice notes brainstorming names, photos of test batches, even a video where I showed her my DIY labels. Every message had a timestamp. Every idea originated from me. And then it got worse. I checked the website Jasmine had listed at the event. On the About page, she claimed she started the business after a year of quiet brainstorming, inspired by solo journaling and self-growth during the pandemic. It was a direct copy of something I had told her. Word for word. That was the moment something snapped in me. This wasn't just about a friendship going sour. This was about theft, personal, Emotional, creative theft. She had stolen not just my ideas but my trust,
My time.
my support. And yet I hesitated. What if I confronted her and she turned it around on me? Jasmine had always been smooth with words. She could cry on cue, make herself the victim in any scenario. People loved her. They'd probably believe her over me. Still, I couldn't stay silent. I took a deep breath and started documenting everything. Screenshots, emails, files, timestamps. I even recorded a few voice messages she'd sent where she casually referenced using my scent combinations. I'd backed up every piece of evidence. I wasn't sure what I was going to do with it yet, but I knew I wasn't crazy, and I definitely wasn't imagining it anymore. The next day, I received a message from Jasmine. "Hey babe, just wanted to say thank you again for inspiring me to finally go for it. Can't wait to catch up. Drink soon?" I stared at the screen, hands trembling. She was mocking me. Or maybe she was that delusional, thinking I'd just roll over and accept it. That night, I called Maya, one of our mutual friends I trusted deeply. I told her everything. I showed her the messages, the branding documents, the overlap in ideas. I didn't ask her to pick sides. I just needed someone to see me. She was silent at first. Then, she looked at me with wide, sad eyes. "She told everyone you gave up on the business, that you said you didn't think you were cut out for it. That she had your blessing." I almost laughed. "What?" "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I had no idea." It was the confirmation I needed. I wasn't being paranoid. I wasn't crazy. I had been betrayed. Worse than that, I had been used. I had been telling myself for weeks that maybe I was being paranoid. That the things I was sensing, whispers when I walked into the room, Instagram captions that felt like they were mocking me, her sudden disinterest in our shared goals, were all in my head. But paranoia ends where proof begins. It started with a screenshot. An anonymous account sent it to me on a random Thursday night. I was lying in bed, the blue light of my phone illuminating my exhausted face. The message was simple. "You should know what she's really been saying." I hesitated before opening the attachment. Something deep inside me already knew what I was about to see.
It was a group chat.
I recognized the names, people I'd introduced her to, friends she barely knew before I pulled her into my circle. And there, right in the middle of the conversation, was her message. "Honestly, I only hang out with her because she gets invited to all the influencer parties. Her style's basic, her content is mid at best, but she's a good stepping stone." Stepping stone. I read those words again and again, like they were carved into my skin. My heart thudded so loudly, it almost drowned out the silence of my room. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't even cry. My body went cold, frozen in betrayal. Every memory of us laughing, planning shoots together, supporting each other, now felt staged, poisoned by her ulterior motives. I dropped my phone. My hands were shaking. My mind replayed the times I defended her when others had warned me. I remembered brushing off the red flags when she asked to borrow my ideas and posted them without credit, when she conveniently forgot to tag me in collaborations I brought her into, when she started copying not just my style but my captions, my hashtags, even my vulnerable story posts. She was never inspired. She was harvesting. Still, I needed to be sure. Screenshots could be faked. I needed to see it for myself. The next day, I played it cool. I invited her over like nothing had happened. She smiled like she always did, that fake, oversweet smile that I now saw clearly for what it was. I asked her about the party on Saturday, the one I knew she'd only been invited to through me. She acted casual, flipping her hair and saying, "Yeah, I might go, not sure yet. Depends who's going." That's when I laid the bait. I told her I was planning to launch my own skincare line and had already secured investors. A complete lie. Her eyes sparkled, not with pride, but with greed. "Really? You didn't even tell me." "Oh my God, I'm so happy for you," she squealed. She wasn't happy. She was calculating. I watched her carefully, noting how she immediately started asking what lab I was using, how much money I'd raised, if I'd trademarked the name. That night, I made a burner account and joined the same chat group from the screenshot. The group was still active. Still alive with gossip, jokes, and behind-the-back jabs. Within hours, she had typed, "She's dumb enough to tell me her whole plan. If I launch something first, I'll dominate. She's got reach, but zero strategy." I stared at the screen, feeling sick. It wasn't just a betrayal. It was theft. Premeditated, manipulative theft. This wasn't about jealousy anymore. This was war. Over the next few days, I gathered more. Voice notes where she mocked me. Posts where she subtly threw shade. And DMs. Oh God, the DMs. She'd messaged one of my brand partners directly, pretending she was managing my schedule, and tried to steal the campaign from under me. But the final straw? She told my crush, someone I had been vulnerably opening up about, to stay away from me because I was emotionally unstable. That's when the emotional dam broke. I collapsed in my bathroom, sobbing into my hands. All these years, I had defended her, uplifted her, even sacrificed my own opportunities so she could shine beside me. And for what? So she could sharpen the knife with my own kindness? I was done crying. I was done playing the fool. This wasn't just about exposing her anymore. This was about reclaiming my voice, the one she tried to bury beneath her fake smiles and curated captions. The next step required courage, and I found it buried beneath every wound she gave me. I didn't plan it. Not exactly. But I knew that moment had to come. The moment I stopped being quiet, the moment I gave her nowhere else to hide. It started with a message. A short one. From someone I didn't know very well, but someone who had nothing to gain from lying. "You deserve to know what she's been saying about you." Attached were screenshots. Dozens of them. Group chats I wasn't part of. My best friend Rachel mocking me, calling me pathetic, saying I only got the promotion at work because of pity. She wrote things like, "She's obsessed with trying to be someone. It's kinda sad. I let her tag along 'cause she's useful. But God, she's so fake. Honestly, I'm the only reason people even tolerate her." I read them twice, then a third time. Each line carved deeper than the last, bleeding out memories I'd buried for years. I remembered how many times I had picked her up at 2 a.m., no questions asked. How often I'd lied for her when she flaked on commitments. How she'd cry in my arms and swear I was the only one she trusted. But none of that was real. And now, I had proof. Still, I didn't confront her immediately. Something in me needed the moment to be right. Rachel had always been good at controlling narratives. She'd cry, twist, manipulate. I knew her well enough to know that a private confrontation would lead to denial, gaslighting, and a smug little smile behind my back. So I waited. A week later, we were invited to a mutual friend's engagement party. Everyone would be there, our social circle, our coworkers, even a few people Rachel really liked to impress.
Perfect.
I walked in calm, confident, wearing that red dress Rachel had once told me made me look desperate. She waved at me like nothing was wrong. I waved back. I watched her move through the crowd, charming, laughing, performing like always. The queen of the room. And then, when enough people had gathered near the open bar, I spoke. "Rachel," I said, loud enough for the people around us to turn, "can I ask you something?" She turned, bright and casual. "Sure, what's up?" I pulled out my phone. "Just wondering, how long have I been your charity project?" Her face twitched. "What?" I scrolled. "Open the screenshots. Read the first message out loud. She's obsessed with trying to be someone. It's kind of sad."
Gasps.
Confused glances. People pausing their conversations. "I'm sorry, what is this?" she asked, still faking calm, though her eyes betrayed her panic. "Your words. In your group chat. You remember. She's only useful, but honestly so fake. That one." A small crowd started gathering. A few people pulled out their phones. I could see them already texting someone. "Wait, this isn't what it looks like," Rachel began. "No," I asked. "Because it looks like my best friend used me like a doormat and thought I'd never find out." "Look, I was venting," she said quickly. "You know how sometimes we say things we don't mean in private." "Multiple times?" Over months? In several chats. I raised my eyebrows. You weren't venting. You were strategizing. Positioning yourself as better. As smarter. You even lied about me at work, didn't you? A pause. A flicker in her expression. Don't know what you're talking about, she muttered. I turned to the crowd. She told our manager I took credit for her ideas. That I was trying to manipulate team members behind her back. That's why I almost lost my contract last quarter. More murmurs. Some people walked away from her. A few looked directly at her with disgust. Rachel's voice cracked. Okay, maybe I said some of those things. But I was going through a hard time, all right? My parents were divorcing, I was under pressure. I stepped closer. I was there for all of that. Every meltdown. Every sleepless night. I didn't ask questions, didn't judge. I was there when no one else was. And this is how you thanked me. Now she was trembling, trying to hold on to her fake composure. You didn't have to do this here. This is cruel. No, I said, my voice low and certain. What you did was cruel. This is just the truth. In public. And then I walked away. No more yelling. No need for chaos. I let her drown in the silence that followed. Because the thing about exposure is, it doesn't need a dramatic finale. It just needs the right light and enough people watching. I didn't even look back. But I heard it. The whispers. The judgment. The unraveling. The mask she'd worn for years? It cracked. And this time everyone saw. The fallout wasn't dramatic at first. In fact, the silence that followed was almost eerie. After I exposed Ava in front of everyone, friends, co-workers, her own fiancé, there was no screaming, no retaliation, not even tears. Just a stunned, suffocating quiet, like the collective breath of the room had been vacuumed out. Ava had stood there, frozen, her face a war zone of disbelief and disbelief again, searching for the right emotion to land on. She didn't find it. She just left. But I was left with the aftershock. The next day and the day after that, whispers followed me. People looked at me differently, some with admiration, some with uncertainty, and a few with judgment, like I had gone too far. But none of them had been in my shoes. None of them knew the depth of the manipulation, the months of micro-betrayals, or the way Ava had weaponized my kindness until I finally snapped. It wasn't just about exposing her lies. It was about reclaiming my story. And yet, the victory felt hollow. That night, I lay in bed replaying everything in my head. The way she used my secrets as entertainment, how she turned people against me with carefully planted doubts, how she smiled while doing it, as if none of it mattered because she always assumed I'd stay quiet. But I hadn't. I'd shattered that illusion. And now, I was staring into the unknown. I thought I'd feel liberated. Instead, I felt haunted. Not by regret, but by the realization of just how long I'd let it go on. And worse, by the possibility that there were still pieces of her scheme I hadn't uncovered yet. In the days that followed, I started noticing oddities. My social media accounts saw a sharp uptick in passive-aggressive comments from people I barely knew. A few mutuals unfollowed me. One of our old college friends texted me, saying, "Hey, I heard what happened with Ava. I don't know what's true anymore. Hope you're okay." That told me everything. Ava was trying to twist the narrative. Subtly, carefully, she was playing the victim now. So I decided to go completely silent. No posts. No interviews. No reaction. I let her wonder. A week later, I received a message that changed everything. It was from another girl, someone I barely remembered from years ago. "Hey, I saw what happened with Ava. You're not the only one. She did something similar to me in college. I didn't think anyone would ever call her out. Thank you." And then another. And another. Within days, I had over a dozen messages from people, mostly women, who had stories. Stories eerily similar to mine. How Ava had used them, manipulated situations, pitted people against each other, then walked away clean. I realized I wasn't just fighting for myself. I had unknowingly started something bigger. I compiled the stories, not for revenge, but for truth. I didn't post them publicly. Instead, I drafted an anonymous article and published it on a popular blog under a pseudonym. The piece was titled, "The Queen Bee in Disguise: How Manipulators Hide in Plain Sight." I didn't name Ava. I didn't have to. The details spoke louder than a name ever could. The piece went viral within 3 days. Thousands of shares. Hundreds of comments. People from all over saying this happened to me. It became a mirror for so many, forcing them to confront the toxic friendships they'd buried. Ava's world began to cave in quietly, but visibly. Her fiancé left her. She deleted her social media. She stopped showing up to events. People didn't accuse her outright, they just withdrew. The queen bee's crown was slipping. Meanwhile, I was rebuilding. Not just my public image, but my internal compass. I started therapy, not because I was broken, but because I didn't want to become hardened. I didn't want Ava's betrayal to define how I saw the world forever. I had let one toxic person convince me I was only valuable when I was useful to her. Never again. One night, months later, I walked past the old cafe where we used to meet. It had been her favorite place. The scent of roasted beans, the memory of our fake laughter over lattes, it all rushed back in waves. But something in me had shifted. I didn't flinch. I didn't ache. I smiled. Because I finally knew who I was without her. Then, just as I turned to leave, I heard someone say my name. I turned. It was Ava. Not the polished, intimidating Ava I once knew. She looked empty. Hollow in a way that couldn't be fixed with makeup or a good angle. She stood awkwardly, holding a paper cup, her eyes avoiding mine. For a moment, neither of us said anything. Then she spoke. "You won." Her voice cracked like thin glass. I didn't respond. "I wasn't always like that, you know," she added quietly. "I just didn't know how to be alone. So I clung to people who made me feel important."
She looked up at me then.
Vulnerable. Tired. Maybe even sincere. But the strange thing was I didn't feel hate. Or revenge. Or even satisfaction. I just felt done. I gave her a single nod. Not of forgiveness. Not of reconciliation. Just closure. Then I turned and walked away. Round pushpin final shocking sentence. Some betrayals don't need revenge. They crumble all on their own under the weight of their lies.